Hello everyone. So another big lost media development has been making the rounds on the internet over the past week, and I figured that I should cover it here as it is something that I've been following for about 10 years at this point. So I'm quite excited about it. If you've been around the lost media community in the past couple of days, you'll know what I'm talking about. Uncle Walt, the lost unauthorized Disney parody from 1964, was remarkably found. So I've watched the short and the succeeding documentary about the search and discovery of it, and I've got some things to say about it. Now, before going into the discovery of the short, I want to catch everyone up to speed on the story of Uncle Walt up to this point. Uncle Walt was an unauthorized Disney parody short film created by Robert Swarf in 1964 while he was studying at UCLA for an animation workshop hosted by the university. The short's only known screening was at the American Film Institute in 1972 as a part of an event titled 50 Years of American Animation. The synopsis read as follows. As the film began, pictures of Walt Disney at various ages were followed by a pan across a graveyard showing the graves of hundreds of Perrys. Disney produced in 1957 a live-action fantasy about the life of squirrels titled Perry. Then there are scenes with very early-style Mickey and Minnie Mouse with racial caricatures and outhouse gags, a Fantasia sequence including the female centaurettes working a red light district with Goofy as a pimp, a scene of frightened little rabbit children looking at scenes from Disney cartoons like the transformation of the Queen into the old hag in Snow White, and a scene of the seven dwarfs gathering to worship Mickey Mouse in a Mouska mausoleum reminiscent of a similar scene in Snow White. After the 1972 screening, the film was preserved in the Academy Film Archive under the Robert Swarf collection, along with copies of other of Swarf's films, some of which have also fallen into lost media. From what it sounded like, the short film was similar to Short Subject, known better as Mickey Mouse in Vietnam, another unauthorized Disney parody short that was created in 1969 and lost for decades before being found in 2013. Concerning Uncle Walt, Swarf went on to mention numerous times that he had no intention of ever releasing the short, possibly due to legal backlash from Disney or his own personal reasons. And that was the story until 2024. On January 1st, 2024, Thunderbean Animation, a website that creates DVD and Blu-ray releases of remastered classic cartoons, announced a new release titled Public Domain Mouse Adventures. The release would include the 3 Mickey Mouse shorts that had gone into public domain that year, Plain Crazy, The Gallopin' Gaucho, and Steamboat Willie, as well as, quote, additional mouse adventures from other studios, which included the Uncle Walt short film. On August 30th, Steve Staunchfield, the owner of Thunderbean, announced that Uncle Walt would not be included on the release anymore due to, at the time, several factors related to the film. Today, the Public Domain Mouse Adventures DVD isn't listed on Thunderbean as it was only a special release of a couple weeks. A couple reels ended up on eBay, one in August of 2024, which sold for $172. This allowed some still photos to be leaked online, which allowed us to gain a better understanding of the film. Another reel showed up in February of 2025, but was taken down shortly after. After these developments, the search died down for quite a bit, and the possibility of the film releasing became more uncertain. On January 12, 2026, a YouTuber named UnkyNPC uploaded the full short film to both YouTube and the Internet Archive. Alongside the release of Uncle Walt, he would upload a nearly 39-minute video titled The Story of Uncle Walt for Now. Let's focus on this video. In the video, he explains his experience with the lost media community and how he came upon acquiring the short film. This led to the revelation that the February 2025 auction on eBay was taken down because of Unky, as he bought the reel from the seller for $850, plus the fee of taking down the auction, which the seller agreed to. He says that the seller had gotten the reel from a private collector in San Diego. Immediately, he took the reel to a local film restoration company named Origins Archival to get the film digitized. Once the film was digitized, he contacted Steve Sanchfield to let him know the situation, and they came to an agreement on how to release Uncle Walt so as to not interfere with Thunderbeam's release of public domain mouse adventures. Steve also divulged that the reason that Uncle Walt was not going to be included on Domain Mouse was because of legal threats from Swarf. Another revelation that Unky mentions in this video that Steve had told him is that apparently there was a 1964 negative copy of the film which had almost the entire back half of the film in color, starting with the red light sequence. After speaking with Steve for a few months, he stopped responding, and Unky made the decision to release the film in January of 2026. The following section will be dedicated to going bit by bit through the short and explaining what's going on. A warning for spoilers in case you would want to watch the film for yourself, which I very highly recommend doing. Uncle Walt starts out with a satirical dedication set to a distorted background song. Text fades onto the cross reading, "One Perry." The camera pans to show numerous other crosses with Perry on them, counting up. Several images of Walt Disney are shown, followed by the title card. The first sequence starts with Mickey strumming on a guitar while Minnie dances on top of a piano. An unnamed character, bearing similarities to some sort of tribe member, appears in the window. Minnie then leaves the house, skipping and singing, passing by an outhouse. Another random, larger character comes out of the outhouse, and Minnie backs up and goes into the outhouse. The camera pans back into the house, showing Mickey playing the piano, with the tribal member on top of the piano. Mickey kicks the piano, which sends the piano and the tribal member skidding across the ground and knocks the tribal member into the outhouse, which then tips over. Minnie then uses her skirt to cover up her private parts. Mickey comes back holding a gun to shoot the tribal member, which misfires. A chase scene ensues between Mickey and the tribal member, which leads to the larger character from the outhouse getting killed by the tribal member. A battle between the tribe people and a group of men donning traditional Middle Eastern robes, with Pete as their leader. Mickey runs away back to Minnie, who is trying to hold the outhouse up off a cliff. The cliff begins to crack. The two sides seemingly make peace and team up to go after Mickey. All of the people, including Mickey, get stuck in the outhouse, which causes Minnie to lose her grip and fall to her death. The next sequence starts with the Dance of the Sugar Plum Fairy, with different sugar plum fairies flying out of the cracks that were formed from the outhouse crashing on the ground below, and the camera zooms into a crevice in a waterfall to show the Centaurettes from Fantasia working as prostitutes in a red light district. The camera pans over showing Goofy dressed as a pimp smoking a cigar. The next scene shows a group of baby cupids flying away, before coming to a dark castle where a group of rabbit children are watching a compilation of unsettling moments from classic Disney cartoons. More assorted scenes are shown, with one in particular showing Mickey-shaped headstones. The final scene is set in a mouse mausoleum, which shows Mickey dead in the clear casket from Snow White, with the dwarfs praying around it, similar to the scene from the movie. The camera quickly pans out, showing other animals looking on, including who is seemingly Bambi and her mother, before a simple "the end" comes on the screen, and the short quickly fades to black. So the big question that I think a lot of people are going to be asking is, was it worth the wait? I honestly had different expectations of what this was going to be. Personally, I was expecting a mix of live action content mixed with some animation. When I heard the first synopsis from that Blame It on Jorge video about Disney Lost Media many years ago, they mentioned something about the horrified reactions of children to different scenes, such as, like I mentioned before, the Snow White transformation from the evil queen to the old hag. So I expected something like that where it was going to be kind of a montage of different reactions from children, but I can understand how that gets misconstrued by the original short being rabbit children and then people being like, oh, well, it's just children reacting to the witch's transformation, and the game of telephone ensues. Now, one thing that I do want to talk about is the reception online that Uncle Walt has been getting. While many people have been open to the short and have breathed a sigh of relief that it has finally been found, there is a vocal minority of people who are just outright trashing the film, calling out its story, its animation, its score, and dialogue. And I really have to ask one thing. What did you expect? If you're a college student, you're obviously not going to have the expertise of someone who has worked in the industry their entire life. Also, the technical limitations at the time didn't really help either. So not only does it look low budget because Swarf did not have the experience, but also he was likely limited in terms of the technology both he was able to use by being connected to UCLA, but also what was essentially available to anyone at the time in general. If you're familiar with Swarf's other works, you'll know that he's known for the crude, avant-garde, and even low-budget look of some of his films, even going as far as to etch out artwork directly onto film reel as shown in ink, paint, and scratch. I've seen people compare this to a YouTube poop or a Newgrounds animation, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. I'd even go as far as to say YouTube poops are a work of art in and of itself, so that's not necessarily an insult to say. A YouTube poop, sure, I can understand why people would think this way given the crude and low budget nature that this film has, but a Newgrounds animation, I'm not really sure where the comparison is at. With that being said, I absolutely love this short. It's a good mix of unsettling, avant-garde, and experimental that balances perfectly. There's a whole lot of different scenes and sequences shown, especially in the second half of the short, which sort of rapid fires through different settings and scenes that it can be hard to track. That beginning with the crosses is utterly disturbing, and I love it. It's absolutely incredible. It reminds me of some of what Local 58 was doing, especially with the music that was used. I'm not sure that if that distortion was because of the age of the reel, or simply because Robert wanted it to be unsettling. I'm personally leaning on the latter being true. Either way, I believe it's nailed to a T, and sets the stage for the rest of the short film. The animation is also incredibly stilted and low budget, and the dialogue is muffled, which just really adds to it. It kind of feels like a personified Lost episode creepypasta. I've been hearing a lot of people compare this to Suicide Mouse, which honestly kind of makes sense. I really see that sort of connection. I guess in our own headcanon, this would be the spiritual successor to Suicide Mouse. This really does feel like a Lost episode creepypasta, but it's an actual real short film. It's actually really interesting. It's just such a chaotic and unsettling ride, and I just know for a fact that you won't ever forget it. Seeing Uncle Walt also made me seek out Swarf's other films, which I have grown to like, such as 1966's The Unicycle Race, and one of my personal favorites from him, 1979's Ink, Paint, Scratch. He was also nominated for an Academy Award for Best Animated Short Film in 1976 for his 1975 short, Kick Me. He has also worked as a special effects artist for 1977's Close Encounters of the Third Kind and 1979's Star Trek The Motion Picture, the latter of which he was also nominated for an Academy for. So this isn't like a random person. This is like somebody who's actually been around the block. This is somebody who actually grew to have a pretty successful career. So yeah, Uncle Walt was found. I'm happy that it finally got found and released so people can see it. Now, if you want to know more about the search, I'll link both Unky NPC's video as well as a video done by Blame It on Jorge done in September of 2024 about the topic. I'll also link Unky's upload of Uncle Walt if you want to check the short out for yourself, as well as some extra sources. If you like the content that I do and want to see more of it, make sure to subscribe and check out the other videos on this channel, as well as my second channel, DJR Diary. But yeah, anyway, thank you guys for watching, and as always, I will see you later.